Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Block Sports. This is your host, Michael Jefferson, coming to you, and it's been a while since we've been on hiatus, but guess what? I'm finally back here in the groove and looking forward to give you as much information as I possibly can on the upcoming football season, but more than anything else, next week, we will be headed to 3 media days. Well, 2 media days, 1 media day that will include the, well, you know what? Let me shut the hell up and let's just get to it. So it's great to be back, great to be online, and we're going to show you all the places we're going to be in the next 2 weeks. And that's essentially what I'm here talking about. For in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be in a couple of different places east of the Mississippi. And with that being the case, but before I get there, just in case you want to find out how to get in touch with me, here you are. www.yourstreet.tv. And hopefully some of you are actually catching me at that location at www.yourstreet.tv. But if you also want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email at michaelj@jcconnect.net. And I got to get some of the rust out of my own self since it's been a while since I've been online. So please, guys, bear with me. But like I said, to get in contact with me, please watch us at www.yourstreet.tv or at my email at michaelj@jcconnect.net. And the next time you see me, we will be live coming to you from Macon, Georgia. But for all of the media days, this is what I'm going to have available for you. And you can watch us live for the upcoming media days. Each football media day will be broadcast live. And you can watch us on, as I said earlier, yourstreet.tv, which is our website, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now you can watch us live on Roku. And this is our own Roku channel of yourstreet.tv. And again, that is on Roku at, again, yourstreet.tv. So please make sure if you don't want to watch us on a computer or your cell phone, then make sure you just watch it on your television on Roku, and you will catch us live. And not only will you see the events that we have for Block Sports, but we will also have other events that we carry under our Affairs of State mantra. And we also will have a third area that we cover, and that's entertainment. And from sports, politics, and entertainment, everything will be on one of these venues: YourStreet.tv, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Roku, or should I say, and Roku. So all of those locations you will catch us on. But at the same time, going back to the football media days that we're going to be covering next week, and we'll have interviews with the coaches for the conferences that we will cover live, as well as the players. And we will also have available for you all of the preseason predictions of all of the teams for each conference. And that is the goal for what we have been doing for the past few years. And we will continue. And as I said, we are going to be driving to and from, a lot of driving, all of the next 2 weeks. But it's something I thoroughly enjoy because guess what? This is football season. So this is just getting me ready for what we will be doing all this football season. And that starts on August 23rd. And of course, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But starting on August 23rd until that final game, which will be the Celebration Bowl. And that is going to be that second week of December, which will be December 13th, unless they change the date. And that can occur because with all of the changes occurring within the FBS and their football schedule, our Celebration Bowl could change as well, maybe even as early as December 6th. But as far as I know, and that date is already out there, I'm quite sure, but as far as I know, December 13th, the Celebration Bowl. But trust me, we have a couple of months to wait before that date comes up, and we'll make sure that you are aware when that game is. But the games that, the media days that we will cover are as follows. And here you go. On Tuesday, July 15th, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be covering the SIAC Media Day, and they are the first one to occur. And that's going to be in Macon, Georgia. And this is the first time that they're planning on having their Media Day at this particular location. And it's going to be at the Tutman African American Museum, and that happens to be the Harriet Tutman African American Museum. And this is the first time because the one thing when I spoke to the commissioner of the SIAC, he mentioned that not only do they want to bring recognition to for those who may not be aware, I don't know who that would be, but for those who may not be aware of who Harriet Tubman is, but especially for younger African Americans who may not be aware of all of the things that she did. But he wants to make sure, Commissioner Holloman wants to make sure that that the younger generation pays homage to Harriet Tubman, therefore having this at the Harriet Tubman African American Museum in Macon, Georgia on July 15th. And for that, I say to Commissioner Holloman, thank you very much and keep it going, because this is something that we need to make sure stays in front of all African Americans, and especially the younger generation, not to take for granted a lot of the things that actually took place during that time. And we're not going to revisit it on this broadcast, but thank you very much, Commissioner Holloman. And let's continue. And so that's July 15th. So on July 16th, we will then go from Macon, Georgia to Birmingham, Alabama. Lots of travel, as I said. And on that Wednesday, July 16th at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, we will be in Birmingham, Alabama at the Sheraton Birmingham Hotel. And we will then cover the SWAC Media Day on Wednesday, July 16th. Now, before I tell you what's going to happen on the 17th, this happens, all of the three that you see right here are three of the four HBCU conferences that we're covering. And so I'm talking about the conferences first, and then I'll get to the other one. But as you can see, on Tuesday, July 22nd, the following week, we will be in Baltimore, Maryland at M&T Bank Stadium. And the MEAC conference will hold theirs at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as I said, Tuesday, July 12th in Baltimore, Maryland at M&T Bank Stadium. And we will be at all three of those locations. Now, why am I not mentioning all four? Well, I tell you what, before I get there, let me talk about the fourth venue that we will cover. I don't know if we'll be able to stream it live. The past couple of years, I have not been able to stream it live, but you never know. But on the other event that we will be covering and that I'll give updates along the way if we're unable to stream it live, which, like I said, the past couple of years we have not, is the MEAC SWAC Challenge. And the MEAC SWAC Challenge is going to be, as I said, on the 15th. Where will we be? On the 15th, we will be for the SIAC Media Day. The 16th, we will be at the SWAC Media Day. And the first one is Macon, Georgia. The second one is Birmingham, Alabama. And on the 17th, guess what? We will then be in Atlanta, Georgia. Lots of driving, guys, lots of driving. But guess what? Not only will I be making this trip, but a lot of other HBCU journalists, media, and photographers, videographers will be making this trek up and down 20, 65, or whatever interstate they're coming from and trekking. All of us will be going up and down this highway for these 3 days. And trust me, we all, see, you made it. Finally made it, huh? Oh, you beat me. And this has been the conversation the past several years. But as you can see, Thursday, July 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be at the Center Park Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, where the MEAC SWAC Challenge football game will take place between North Carolina Central University Eagles and the Southern University Jaguars. And that game is going to be on week 0 at Georgia State at 6 p.m. on August 23rd. And that will be part of week 0. And thank you very much for everyone who has been participating in this, who has made this such a success for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. The MEAC has been just winning left, right, and sideways, but all of a sudden these past few years, the SWAC has slowly but surely started to win a couple of games here. And we'll see how well the SWAC continues in this. But this is going to be one whale of a game between North Carolina Central and the Southern Jags. And I can tell you right now, and you know how I feel about them damn Jaguars. I say it all the time. But I have much love. You have no idea. I have much love for the Jags because as a coach and as someone who loves sports, it doesn't matter what team the Southern University Jaguars field. Doesn't matter. They never give up. Never give up. And so if you think you got them down, they're never out until the clock strikes 000. Trust me when I say that. They never give up. They're never out of any contest. So if North Carolina Central, and I have great respect for Coach Oliver for North Carolina Central, because if you make a mistake and beat him once, you best believe if he sees you again, you ain't going to beat them twice. Not twice in a row. Unless you have one hell of a team. But I can tell you, this is going to be one game for us to remember. This is going to be the first game of the year on August 23rd. And as I said, this is their media day. And if you're able to attend on July 17th, please do so. Or if it's being streamed live, watch it, because it's going to be one heck of a game on August 23rd at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, for all of the other events and everything, now, unfortunately, well, as I mentioned, there are 4 HBCU conferences: the SIAC, the MEAC, SWAC, and the CIAA. Those are the 4 HBCU conferences with football teams. Unfortunately, we will not be able to cover the CIAA for the second year in a row, because unfortunately the CIAA scheduled their media day on the same day as the SWAC. And because I'm just a little biased towards the SWAC conference, not going to say why, but since I'm just a little biased towards the SWAC conference, unfortunately I won't be able to attend. But the teams that represent the CIAA, Bowie State, Fayetteville State, and all of those other teams, I'm sorry, wrong conference. I apologize. Wrong that I was thinking about. But yeah, Bowie State, Fayetteville State. I was about to name some other schools. But yes, Bowie State is a part of the CIAA, Fayetteville State, Livingstone, Virginia State, and Virginia Union. All of those schools that make up the CIAA, Winston-Salem, Johnson C. Smith, Shaw, Lincoln, Elizabeth City, and Bluefield. And hopefully I did not miss any I did not miss any school. But if I did, please forgive me. But of all of those schools, unfortunately, I won't be able to attend your media day. But if there's a way that I can cover your team, and there are a couple of schools that I plan to contact to see if we can come in and do a pregame show or even cover your school during your football season. And please remember, if there are games that are not being covered by one of the 2 main entities that's covering mostly all of HBCU sports, please let me know, because this is something that through yourstreet.tv, we can make sure we get your content out. But let's move forward and let's talk about how each conference ended their season and where each team ended up. Now, with the CIAA, in the last 2 years, they decided to go from a north and a southern division, and they have everyone. I can't remember if it was north and south or east or west, but they decided not to do that anymore. And they decided, look, the best team is going to play the best team. Whoever the top 2 teams are in the conference, they need to play each other. Because every once in a while, the best 2 teams may be in the same division. And in some cases, that's not fair. Because like prime example, in the SWAC, the best 2 teams were in the East. And they were Jackson State and Florida A&M a few years ago. But guess what? Whoever won between Jackson State and FAMU ended up undefeated. And the other team only lost at 1 game. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why can't they play each other? Unfortunately, both of those teams were in the East. And in the West, you may have had a team that may have lost 2 games in the conference, or maybe even 3 games in the conference. And they had to play one of those teams, and they had to play either Jackson State or FAM. And guess who won? Whoever won between Jackson State and Florida A&M. and they went on to the Celebration Bowl. But for the CIAA, they only have the top 2 teams. And this is how they ended up last year. And as you can see, last year, with one division, one conference, and as you can see, Virginia Union and Virginia State ended up being the top 2 teams in the conference. And as you can see, each team ended up 6-1 in conference play. And the other teams here, as you can see, Johnson C. Smith 5-2, Winston-Salem 5-2 in conference play, Livingstone 4-3 with Shaw, and Fayetteville State and Bowie State ended up 3-4, followed by Lincoln, Elizabeth City, and unfortunately Bluefield, who did not win a game in conference play, ended up 0-7. But, and what I want to point out, as well as in other conferences, you had some teams that came out of nowhere. And when I say nowhere, I mean nowhere, to win their conference or to move up in the top half of the conference. Prime example, Johnson C. Smith. That was a team that essentially they did pretty decent the year before under Coach Flowers, but last year, oh my gosh, they came essentially out of nowhere to almost make it to the conference championship game. But had it not been for those 2 losses, and of course the 2 losses happened to be to each Virginia school, they ended up being 5-2. And the other schools, as I said, they put on a great fight. But Johnson C. Smith, I was actually personally rooting for Johnson C. Smith to come out of nowhere to win the conference, or at least make it to the conference championship game. But of course, as you can see, based upon the records, they ended up 5-2 in conference play, but they had a better overall record of 8-2, whereas Virginia Union ended up being 7-3, and Virginia State ended up being 7-4. Johnson C. Smith, as you can see, unfortunately lost their last 2 games. And because of that, that made the biggest difference for them. But as you can see, the 2 top teams, as is necessary, made it to the conference final. And who made it to the conference final? Virginia State and Virginia Union. And the winner between those 2, Virginia Union, was the champs of the CIAA. And they defeated Virginia State by a score of 17-13. 2 in-state rivals battling it out for the conference championship. So congratulations to Virginia Union, the 2024 champs for the CIAA. And this year, we expect pretty much the same thing to occur. At least I'm looking for another great battle. Now, I don't know about everyone else, but I know I'm looking for a great battle between these schools, as well as making sure that Johnson C. Smith has another great run. I'd love to see Johnson C. Smith have a great run, because guess what? Before this, it was Bowie State and Fayetteville State. It was almost always guaranteed that these 2 schools were going to get there. Fayetteville State had made it 6, if not 7 years in a row, making it to the conference championship and only winning once. Bowie State made it 5 years in a row and won 5. And who did they beat? Fayetteville State. Now, as you can see, going back here, Bowie State, well, let's go back here. Bowie State did not end up so well as Fayetteville State. They each ended up 3-4 in conference play. 4-5 for Fayetteville State, 4-6 for Bowie State. But now, since everyone is having to play everyone and receive that conference record no division record, but they have to play everyone, well, within reason, because there are so many schools, so they can only play so many schools within the conference to qualify for the conference championship. And because of that, there you go. And I'm just looking forward to seeing, personally, I'm looking forward to seeing what Johnson C. Smith is going to do this year. And we are going to show you the number of coaches that still reside in not only the CIAA, but in each conference, because we have had some coaching moves here within not only the CIAA, but in each conference. And we will take a look at those moves and those changes and see how it will affect each school. Now, let's move forward to now the SIAC. Now, in the SIAC, you had one team that was just strictly dominated. That was strictly dominant throughout the whole season. But there was one school that was ranked around about preseason, ranked around about 10th or 11th in preseason. Brand new coach, even though he had transferred from another school in the SIAC, but brand new coach, brought over some of his players from the other school, but they were ranked 10th, projected 10th. New coach, new players, having to make sure that all of those players were able to fit in and work together. And here you go, the SIAC. And for the SIAC, you had Miles College. They just stood out above everyone. And as you can see, Miles, 8-0 in conference play. And not only did they have the best record in conference, they also had the best record overall. Followed by Fayetteville State and Albany State at 6-2. Clark Atlanta is 6-3. Tuskegee, which everyone always feels is always in the mix, 5-3. Followed by Savannah State, Kentucky State, and Benedict, who had previously been the top dog in the conference at 4-4. Then Edward Waters, Lane, Allen, Morehouse, and Central State. This was those top 5 schools. They were always in the mix from Jump Street. But the school that stood out more than anyone else was, as you can see, Clark Atlanta. During the first part of the season, they freaking came out of nowhere. And I said out of nowhere, winning games on top of game, on top of game, on top of game. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. Who? Clark Atlanta? I mean, Coach Key, who is this guy? And how could he be this successful in his first year? Now, there's also another coach in another conference we're going to touch base on that left Benedict College. And as you can see, Benedict had won the last 2 championships, but look where Benedict fell to, 4-4. Just middle of the road after having lost their number 1 coach, Coach Shanice Berry. And they ended up being 4-4, 4-6 overall, as I said, after losing their head coach to another school in another conference, which happened to be South Carolina State in the MEAC. But we'll get there in a few minutes. But here's your record for Benedict. But at the same time, look at Clark Atlanta. After having left Allen, going to Clark Atlanta. And last year in their media day, and I have respect for every coach, being a coach myself. But listening to the coach from the SIAC, and one thing I have to say about this coach is that just awesome. Just absolutely awesome. And unfortunately, I have to take a 2-minute break. So please excuse me. I have to take one quick 2-minute break, and I will be right back with you as soon as I make this one adjustment. So please excuse me, and I will be right back. Sorry about that, everyone. I had to make a quick adjustment here, and I apologize for going off camera for a short period of time. But I'm back with you, and I wanted to make sure the adjustments were made. But as I was saying about the SIAC, with Clark Atlanta, they essentially came out of nowhere to be one of the top teams in the conference. And because of the adjustments, because of the things that they did, a lot, and as you can see, yeah, you have Fort Valley State and Albany State with a better conference record, but because of the games that were played and what transpired in those games, Clark Atlanta was able to qualify for the championship game against Miles College, because Albany State needed to and not only that, but Clark Atlanta won head-to-head against Albany State and Fort Valley. But what happened is, because of other factors that took place in the conference and in the conference play, Clark Atlanta qualified to play Miles College for the SIAC championship. And with that being said, as you can see the records, Miles was on top, Clark Atlanta was the upstart. But in the championship game for the SIAC, Miles College came out on top. And as you can see, by a score of 53-25, Miles College stayed on top all the way from cradle to grave, all throughout the season with their 8-0 record. And they were able to tell Clark Atlanta, nice to see you upstart, but guess what? We're top dog. Or in this case, they're top bear. But they had a great season, great run. Everything that the Golden Bears did just turned to gold. And they had the Midas touch in this case. And because they had that Midas touch, they were able to take out the Clark Atlanta Panthers and win that game. But we'll see this year, because as I said the same thing about Johnson C. Smith, I say the same thing about Clark Atlanta. I'm waiting to see what Clark Atlanta is going to do this year. And with Coach Keaton, I can tell you right now, listening to Coach Keaton and his enthusiasm, his zeal for the guys, for starting anew, for playing the game and for having the kids to play the game and just be enthused about the game itself and what he felt about it. I mean, he was there, almost like Coach Berry. Almost made me want to go out and get shoulder pads right now at the age of 60 to say, you know what, where you want me, Coach? What do you want me to do? You want me to do kickoff? You want me to be the kicker? What do you want? That was his motivation. His motivation. That was his attitude. That was how he believed. He was not as forceful and rah-rah as Coach Berry, but his focus, his mindset, his dedication to, now don't get me wrong, all coaches are like this, but it's just a different mindset in how they approach the game. all coaches have a different approach. Some are very loose, and some are just laser focused right there. And that was Coach Keaton. He just came across different in his first season going to Clark Atlanta. And that's why I'm looking forward to seeing what he is going to do this year. And going back to Johnson C. Smith with Coach Flowers. Different attitude, different mindset. He kept it loose. He kept everything fresh. And it took him a couple of years to get to where he is today. So that's why I'm looking forward to seeing on the CIAA side where Johnson C. Smith is going to be during preseason, and also what they're going to do during the regular season. I can't wait for football. Like I was last year, I can wait, but it's going to be rough. And then this is why this upcoming media day is just going to be so exciting. I hate that I won't be able to make the CIAA's media day, but I think I'm going to make a couple of calls to some of the coaches just to see how you're doing. Tell me what you think about your team. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make your media day, but can you tell me about what your team is looking like this year? So I'll see if I can do that for you for the CIAA and for some of the coaches. So stay tuned. Now let's move forward to the MEAC. Now the MEAC, now we're coming to Division I. We had the two Division II conferences, the CIAA and the SIAC. But now we have the Division I FCS schools. And for these two schools, yes, they play against each other. And with the MEAC SWAC Challenge and also in the Celebration Bowl, they're always saying one conference is better than the other. And at one point in time, even though the MEAC has fewer schools, a lot of people were saying they may not be the best conference. But yet and still, the MEAC won more games against head-to-head against the SWAC. And that's hard for me to say because why? I love me some SWAC. But you got to respect what the MEAC is bringing to the table. And I believe because they have fewer teams and they have to build their schedule with outside schools, other teams outside of the conference, they have somewhat of an advantage because they have to prepare for different offenses and different defenses more than the SWAC schools. And I've said this for last 2-3 years, that I think the MEAC does have an advantage because week in, week out, the MEAC only has to prepare for 5 schools in the MEAC. And they have to prepare for 6 schools outside of the MEAC. Whereas the SWAC, they're seeing the same 8 schools for the most part. Now, there are some schools that they rotate through. But they're still seeing the same 8 schools year in, year out. As I said, some of the schools in each division, they rotate out. So the East, all of the East schools in the MEAC, in the SWAC, they have to play each other. All of the schools in the West has to play each other. And then they rotate in and out the schools in the other division. But in the MEAC, they only have the 5 schools to play against. And they have to bring in other schools from other conferences to play against. So to me, I think they have a bigger advantage because of having to prepare and their kids having to prepare. They have to be mentally prepared for what they're going to see week in, week out, which means by the time they get to the Celebration Bowl or the last 2 or 3 games, they're mentally locked in. Okay, this school is going to bring this. Okay, I saw this, so this school might do the same thing. And they're mentally locked into what they may or may not see. And I might be wrong, but as a coach, I think this mentally prepares my team or that team to be prepared for what they can see. Now, going back to the MEAC, this is how their season ended. Now, what did I say about this new coach on the block that left Benedict? He went over to South Carolina State. And what did South Carolina State do? They ended up going through the MEAC undefeated. So Coach Berry, in his first season at South Carolina State, ended up 5-0 in conference play, 9-3 overall. Or should I say 9-2, minus the Celebration Bowl. But they ended up 9-2 overall before the Celebration Bowl, but 5-0 in conference play. And the big dog on the hill, North Carolina Central, who did they lose to? South Carolina State. Now, this year, I can tell you folks, Coach Berry may have snuck up on everyone. And the surprise school this year, last year in 24, was Howard University, because Howard only won one game in conference play. But that's because I believe that everybody in the conference was just balling. The only school that really had issues during conference play was Delaware State. Now, don't get me wrong. They were in most games in the first half. Second half, I think it was just about training and conditioning. But every school in the conference, they were in the game. Now, there were some games where I think Norfolk State, they took a couple of chances that they shouldn't have, and because of that, they found themselves behind the 8 ball, ended up losing those games. And because of that, Coach Odoms lost his job, and they now have a new coach. But for the most part, for the MEAC conference and what I see, man, and these are the coaches that currently exist. South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, Morgan State, and Howard. Those are the coaches that have been there for, and in this case, Coach Berry, his second year. But these are the coaches that have been there 2 years or more. The coach for Norfolk State, which we will talk about, and the new coach for Delaware State, which will be their first years. It's going to be interesting to see what they bring to the table, especially Norfolk State. All eyes will be on Norfolk State this year because of their head coach. Big name head coach that they're bringing in. I don't think the only other bigger name that was out there prior to their coach was the coach for Jackson State, and his name was Deion Sanders. And we'll get to that, the new coach for Norfolk State. But with that being the case, and as I said, this MEAC 2025, no one is sneaking up on anybody. No one. And I know Coach Berry, he's going to bring it. I know Coach Oliver, he's going to bring it. That first game against Southern University, I love my SWAC. I'm almost afraid of what Coach Oliver and that North Carolina Central team is going to do to Southern. They may come out to prove a point. It's going to be rather interesting to see what happens in that game. And I'm telling everyone, for that game, that first game between North Carolina Central and Southern University, pay close attention to what happens in that particular game. It may not have anything to do with Southern University's capabilities, but it may have everything to do with North Carolina Central saying, we have something to prove, and we're starting from day one in game one. So pay close attention to what North Carolina Central does in this game. Now, if Southern University comes out and wins this game, then I'll easily say this. No disrespect to Coach Oliver because he knows how I feel about him. But North Carolina Central is going to have a long season if they end up losing to Southern. Don't get me wrong, Southern made it to the SWAC championship last year. And that coach built that team from scraps, from what we saw at the beginning of the season. And he completely turned that team around when in Southern University to make it back to the SWAC championship. He did a one look, and that was in the middle of the season. So it'll be interesting to see in that game what transpires. Now, talking about the SWAC. Oh, but before that, and as I said, who won the MEAC? South Carolina State. Now, let me say this. South Carolina State won this championship in Coach Berry's first year. Why do I make that statement? Is because if South Carolina State won the MEAC in Coach Berry's first year, he did bring over a couple of his guys from Benedict, a Division II school. But he did bring some of his guys from Benedict College with him into the MEAC to play in Division I ball. As I said, Benedict, Division II school with quote-unquote Division II players. And he brought them over to South Carolina State. Now, if Coach Berry was able to win the MEAC in his first season with guys he brought from a Division II school to play Division I ball, and now he's going to be able to recruit Division I players that are going to be his kind of players, the MEAC's going to be rough, Doc, which means Coach Wilson, Coach Scott, Coach Oliver, and the other guys that's coaching, if they're not ready for what's going to take place in 2025, we're going to look at a repeat performance for South Carolina State. Now, I know Coach Oliver and Coach Scott is going to have something to say about that. And also Coach Wilson, because he has been slowly but surely building Morgan State as well. But as I said, it's going to be a really, really rough year in the MEAC. It's just going to be a bloodbath. That's all I have to say. I mean, look at what South Carolina State did last year. They went 9-2 during regular season. 9-2. Now they went 5-0 in conference. But the other 4 games that they played, that they won, now they lost 2, not including the Celebration Bowl. I'm not counting Celebration Bowl. But of the other 6 games they played, they won 4 of those that were outside of conference. And the 2 that they lost, they were in it. So this football season, dude, all I got to say is this. If the MEAC ain't ready, oh well. They're going to be champs for a long time until they play catch up with them. And I'm quite sure those other schools, they know what they're in for. And I did mention Coach Wilson, Coach Scott, and Coach Oliver. They've been coaching for 1 or 2 days, so they know what to and how to prepare for teams like this. Now, for the SWAC, and as I said, you guys already know where I am and how I feel about the SWAC conference. And in the SWAC is the only one of the 4 conferences that still have divisions. And let's take a look at how the SWAC ended up last year. And as you can see, this is how the SWAC ended up last year. You saw Jackson State, cradle of grade. They led everything. And they were number one across the board. And as I said, here you are with Jackson State 8-0 in their division. Alabama State, Florida A&M 5-3, Alabama A&M 4-4, Bethune and Mississippi Valley State bringing up the rear. But in the West, as you can see, Southern University ended up 8-5. Now they made it through being 7-1 in conference play, but the first part of the year and outside of that, man, it was kind of rough for them. It was kind of rough. I can easily say for what they were going through. But Southern University, they ended up in conference play, and especially in their division play, they ended up 7-1. But 8-5 overall, whereas Jackson State, as you can see, ended up 12-2. They went through conference play, and they lost a couple of games. Now, one of the games that did not count as a conference game was Grambling State University. That game did not count as a conference play, but they lost to Graham. And it was kind of interesting, but that was one of the two losses that Jackson State had. But they ended up making it through to the championship game against one of their arch rivals, Southern University. Their other arch rival, which is in conference, Alcorn State University. In conference, in state. And so you could say that that's their main in-conference rival. But out of state, the other main conference rival happens to be them damn Jaguars from Southern University. Guys, I make jokes, but I got a lot of family that have gone to Southern University. And lots of love. A lot of family members that have gone to Southern, Alcorn. My son went to Florida A&M. My mom graduated from Arkansas Pine Bluff. We're all there. And so even though I make fun, joke, and have a lot of fun, a good friend of mine graduated from Grambling State University. I got friends all over the SWAC. A fraternity brother of mine just retired from Alabama State. Gosh, I can go and not only that, and I've said this on numerous occasions, Mississippi Valley State has lots of love for me because the people that, not including family, but the people that molded me in terms of who I am today actually graduated from Mississippi Valley State. And that was my track coach, Coach Albert McEwen, and my band director, Mr. Willie Redfield III. Those are two individuals that I owe lots of respect to because they molded me at a small school named William Winans High School, or William Winans Attendance Center, back in Centerville, Mississippi. And Mississippi Valley State, I don't care if you go and whatever from here until the end of eternity, that school will forever hold a soft spot in my heart because of what those two men and how they helped mold me into the person who I am today. Will I still make mistakes? Yes. And I can still hear some of the things, some of the teachings that they brought to the classroom and also on the field, whether it was in track or whether it was in basketball for Coach McEwen, or whether it was in the band room or on the practice field for marching band under Mr. Redfield. And yeah, sometimes it was about sports, sometimes it was about music, but they also told you how to grow up to be a man. And I say thank you. Thank you very much. There are certain things you just can never forget. And hopefully for those of you who are out there listening, that you have someone that you pay homage to. And if there is, make sure you give them a call. because they need to hear that from you. Because all they hear, and as a teacher myself, all we hear, oh my gosh, I hate him. Why did he have to do that? Why did she have to do that? Why is this going on? Why is that going on? Give them a call and say thank you. I know you didn't come to hear this about HBCU sports, but take the time to say thank you to people who made a difference in your life. Now let's go back to the SWAC conference. And as I said, as you can see, like I said, Valley, right here, guys, right there. But for all of the schools, as you can see, Jackson State ended up on top. Southern University screamed and fought, clawed their way up to the top, making it through Alcorn, Texas Southern, Prairie View, and the other schools in the West. And they ended up playing Jackson State for the SWAC championship. And Jackson State defeated Southern in the first game of the SWAC champion, in the first game during the regular season. And the second game in the SWAC championship was no different. And as you can see, Jackson State defeated Southern University by a score of 41-13. Now, although we're not going to talk about what transpired in the Celebration Bowl, we're not going to mention anything that took place in the Celebration Bowl. But anyway, make sure you do support your HBCU school. If you don't have one, find one. I repeat, if you don't have one, find one. Buy the season tickets, even if you're not able to go to the games. I can get into the games free. I still buy season tickets for Jackson State. Support your local school. Support your alum, your school you graduated from. Buy those season tickets. Now, let's take a look at the coaches and the coaching changes that took place in all four conferences so we can do a wrap for this year, this upcoming year. Now, for the CIAA, here we are. Now, for the CIAA, we have for Elizabeth City, new coach, Adrian Jones. Also for Shaw, Lamar Manigo, and I hope I pronounced his name correct. But as you can see for the other schools, everyone else is coming back. Now, something else I decided to do is I also decided to include players, and let me reference this, that I am aware of, and I may have missed a couple, so if I did, please bring it to my attention. But coaches that I'm aware of that played in the NFL that are now coaching and coming in as an HBCU head coach. And for the CIAA, they only have one. And that particular coach happens to be with Livingstone College going into his third year, Sean Gilbert. And the CIAA only has one. But as you can see, they have two new head coaches. Now, going to the SIAC. With the SIAC, you had a couple changeovers. Central State, new head coach, Tony Carter. Fort Valley State, new coach, Marlon Watson. Lane College, new coach, Stanley Connor. And Miles College, we'll talk about that in a few, Chris Good, first year. 4 new coaches. And of those coaches, one coach happens to be new, played in the NFL. And that was Chris Good. Played right here in Indianapolis with the Indianapolis Colts. So hopefully I get a chance to speak to him at the media day for the SIAC, and that'll be on the 15th. So I will make sure, one way, shape, form, or fashion, I get a chance to talk to Coach Good. But as I said, here you are, the new coaches. And it just so happens that Miles College just won. As I said, they just won the SIAC. So when you are successful, that's what happens. And so he moved up from Division II to a Division I school. And we'll see how successful he is. But think about this. Benedict College, their coach, went from, and let me make sure I mention Benedict here. Ron Dickerson. This was his second year. I should have said his first year. So he should be in his first year as well. So I apologize for that. But at the same time, here you are. You're talking about new coaches, brand new, coming into the system and hitting it off almost immediately. So Coach Good for Miles College, he's taking a championship team. And now he has to make sure that that championship team continues to win. Now, of course, Benedict was that team that the previous year they had won 2 in a row with that team. And they became a team that was middle of the road because their coach had just left to go to South Carolina State. Now, Miles College, whose coach just left, and we'll touch base to say where he went. Now, they have a new coach. Now, let's see how well Miles College will do, having won the championship, and now they have a new coach. Now, let's move forward to the MEAC. Now, with the MEAC, Norfolk State, brand new coach. And you heard me refer to Norfolk State, right? And as you can see, Norfolk State, their new coach, and he has a name almost as big as Deion Sanders, Coach Michael Vick. And Michael Vick had a very successful NFL season. So let's see how well that translates to being head coach. And if it translates to a successful NFL head coach, college coach, it'll be interesting to see how well they do, how well he does his first year. But not only that, how successful will he be in, one, getting good coaches under him to work with him. You always need great assistant coaches, as well as being able to recruit student athletes to play. That was one thing Deion Sanders was able to do. He was able to recruit 3, 4, and 5-star players to play at Jackson State when he was at Jackson State. And I'll hold those thoughts to myself. But at Jackson State, he was able to recruit 3, 4, and 5-star athletes, one of which transferred with him to go to Colorado and became the first Heisman Trophy winner. I will be okay. The first Heisman Trophy winner to transfer from not only an FCS school, but also to transfer from an HBCU to win the Heisman Trophy, Travis Hunter. So congratulations to him. But I say all of that to say this. We'll see what type of recruiting Michael Vick will be able to do for Norfolk State. Because Michael Vick, his name is still out there in terms of a big NFL player. And we'll see whether or not that will translate in getting 3, 4, and 5-star players to come to Norfolk State. We'll see. But as I said, you have 2 new players, 2 new coaches. And the 2 new coaches happen to have played in the NFL. Michael Vick, Norfolk State, and Deshaun Jackson, at Delaware State. Everyone else, and of course Shanice Berry, this is his second year after having left Benedict College. And let's take a look at the last conference, the SWAC. And the only conference with divisions. And in the SWAC, you have 5 schools with NFL coaching experience, or should I say with NFL players that have played in the NFL now as head coaches in the college ranks. First year head coach, Alabama A&M. Transfer, or should I say, moved from Miles College after having won that championship. First year at Alabama A&M, and coming in for Coach Maynard. That was a surprise, not a surprise, but it was a big surprise. Mississippi Valley State, Terrell Buckley, first year, NFL experience. And of course, we all know Coach Robinson. Much love for him. Coach Robinson, Alabama State. And of course, you have Chris Ditchman, his second year, NFL experience. And even though this is his third year, but you have Alonzo Hampton, Arkansas Pine Bluff. But first year head coaches, you have at Prairie View, Jermaine Jackson, his first year as head coach here at Prairie View, and then at Valley with Terrell Buckley, and then Coach Shade at Alabama A&M. Few changes here, few changes there. But the question is, how will it affect the results for each conference? That's one thing that this football season and every football season will hold near and dear to everyone's heart. How will my team fare this year? How will each team prepare this year? Unfortunately, whatever team has the fewest injuries, whatever team listens and prepares to their coach's liking better than the other team, those are the teams that will be successful. And of course, at Jackson State, with Coach T.C. Taylor, congratulations to him, being on top of the world for the 2024 season. And of course, after having won the Celebration Bowl over South Carolina State. And we're hoping for continued success at Jackson State. And of course, being my alma mater, we're hoping for continued success there. But for every school that is in an HBCU conference playing football, SIAC, CIAA, MEAC, and the SWAC. And also for the schools that are not in an HBCU conference. We wish you much success. And I'm not going to name those schools because I will inevitably miss one of those schools. But for all of the schools that are in the HBCU conference and for the schools that are not in the HBCU conference, we pray that you have a successful year. We pray that your students, your student athletes, are successful in their endeavors and what they are to do for their respective schools. But more than anything else, to the alums that are out there that graduated from Morehouse, that graduated from Albany State, that graduated from Jackson State, that graduated from Hampton, that graduated from North Carolina A&T, for all of the alums that are out there that graduated from Bowie State, Alcorn, Shaw, Prairie View, Grambling, buy season tickets. Support your HBCU. The athletic department needs your money. They need your funds. The student athletes that's playing in these sports, they need your money just to be able to buy shoes, to be able to travel to and from each location. The colleges, the conferences need your funding. Why am I saying this? I give. My wife gives. You have to be able to give back. We always talk about the PWIs and how they're doing this and how they're doing that. Guess what? Their alumni, they give. Because why? They want to see their school do better than another PWI. So we should be in the same vein. Give, because you want to see a Jackson State do better than Southern. You want to see a Bowie State do better than a Bowie State do better than a Fort Valley State. You want to see Benedict do better than Albany State. Give back to your school. You want to see North Carolina Central do better than Howard. Give back to your HBCU. Alcorn do better than Grambling. Give to your school. Because if you don't, it's a guarantee that no one else will. So with that being said, guys, next week, please make sure that you join us and that you join us live for one of these days here as we make sure that as we go to these different locations, that you will see us and that we will be live bringing to you all of the media day interviews where we go to the coaches, where we talk to the players. We will give you the predictions for preseason, where we think these schools are going to end up for the regular season. But more than anything else, join us live, and you will see us either on Roku, YouTube, YourStreet.tv, LinkedIn. Just join us wherever you may be, because we will be there and we will be live, bringing to you everything about HBCU sports and HBCU football. And with that being said, guys, may God bless you, may God keep you, and we will see you next Tuesday. God bless.